So, when you're trying to encounter with such a patient who's coming to you with the signs and symptoms of right hypochondrial pain, and there's a palpable mass in the right hypochondrium, so how are you going to make the diagnosis of a cholangiocarcinoma? So, first thing, always, you have to start with the history and examination. So, in history, there are some important features, and that's how a patient is present to you, the symptoms. Okay, so the first thing the patient will complain is abdominal pain, which is a right hypochondrial pain. And most of the time, this pain is not colicky or acute episodic pain, which is most of the time in case of the cholecystitis or cholangitis. But this is a kind of a dull ache pain, and the patient is giving you the history of many, many years that I have been suffering from this dull ache pain, and it never goes away. Another symptom by which the patient can present to you is early satiety, and the patient would not be feeling hungry, and the patient, it's a kind of, you can say, loss of appetite, and there would be anorexia and a weight loss. And most of the time these patients actually present to you with the jaundice, because if there is a mass in the gallbladder, and it's a bigger mass, or it's at the neck of the gallbladder, then there is a stasis of the bile, and because of this stasis of the bile, the patient can actually present to you with obstructive jaundice. So remember, abdominal pain, which is dull ache, there can be early satiety, there can be anorexia and a weight loss. Jaundice is one of the hallmark for the presentation of cholangiocarcinoma, because all the cancers, they accompany cachexia. So there would be generalized myopathy, you can say muscle wasting. So the patient would be cachexic, and there is a positive sign which is called as a Courvoisier sign, or you can say it is a law which was actually given by a French scientist, and his name was Courvoisier's. And the law states that if a patient is presenting to you with a right upper quadrant pain, and the patient is clinically jaundiced, and on examination there's a palpable mass in the right hypochondrium, then this is least likely to be because of the stone. So that means that if there's a palpable mass in the right hypochondrium, and patient is presenting to you with the pain and jaundice, then and this palpable mass is not because of the dilatation secondarily to the stones, but it's because of the tumor. So always follow this law when you're examining such a patient. So remember, how the patient is going to present to you is actually the pain, abdominal pain, which is most of the time in the right upper quadrant, and it's not a colicky, it's not episodic pain. Instead, it's a dull ache pain. Then the patient would present to you with a loss of appetite. The patient will present to you with a weight loss, anorexia, jaundice, cachexia, and when you're trying to examine said patient, then there would be a palpable mass, and the patient would not be tender in that right hypochondrium, and it would be a painless jaundice. So the painless jaundice accompanying the right upper quadrant mass, that is most of the time because of the cholangiocarcinoma. Now, on the basis of history and examination, you come up with a probable diagnosis that most likely the patient is suffering from some kind of a tumor, which is cholangiocarcinoma. It can be gallbladder, it can be carcinoma extrahepatic, which is involving the biliary channel. It can be intrahepatic as well. Now, you need some supportive investigation. So you start from very baseline investigation. You try to order for blood CP, and then just because the TLC count would be a kind of a hint that patient is not suffering from acute cholecystitis or cholangitis, so it will help you to rule out some diseases. Okay, so rule in and rule out. Now, the second important thing is, like, you're going to order for liver function test. So the most important thing is bilirubin level, which is direct and indirect bilirubin level, then you have to order for ALT and AST and ALP. So LFT, especially the ALT and AST would be normal if there is a CA gallbladder, but they can be deranged when you're talking or when you're suspecting about intrahepatic cholangiocarcinoma. So in case of a CA gallbladder, ALP would be raised, and possibly bilirubin would be very high, and most of the time the hilar and the distal cholangiocarcinomas, they are actually present to you with a raised bilirubin level and an ALP level as well, and there is a history of a weight loss as well. Now, another important thing is like some of the tumor markers, which can actually going to be very helpful, is like CEA, carcinogen embryogenic antigen, and then there are some CA 199. Okay, so these tumor markers can be very helpful when you are diagnosing a case of cholangiocarcinoma. The first and the foremost investigation is ultrasonography, because ultrasonography is going to tell you the patient is suffering from cholelithiasis, choledocholitis, there is CBD dilatation. It's going to tell you about the mass. It can state that there's a polyp in the gallbladder, or there is irregular mass in the fundus or the body or the neck of the gallbladder, which is actually obstructing the rest of the part, and it's leading to the development of obstructive jaundice. Sometimes the periampullary carcinomas, okay, they can be picked up by ultrasonography. Now, when you are done with the ultrasonography and it's giving you kind of impression that the patient is suffering from carcinoma, or there is a mass in the gallbladder, or there's a polyp in the gallbladder, then you go for some investigations, like invasive investigations, like contrast enhanced CT scan. So the CCT is really going to help you with the status of the CBD, and it's going to look for the margins of the gallbladder, and CT can help you exactly the location of the location, their irregularity, the margins, the ductal system involvement. It's going to help you with all these information. Then there's another modality which is called as MRCP, which is magnetic resonance cholangiopancreatography. So this MRCP is definitely it's gonna help you with the exact location. So you can see here in this diagram that actually the arrow is pointing you out the location of the gallbladder. It's nearly, the tumor is just at the junction, or you can say the hilum, and you can see the involvement of the gallbladder wall and the thickness, and there is a CBD dilatation as well. And you can actually, these CT scan and the other MRCP, this is a picture of a CT. So CT can help you with the gallbladder wall thickness, and it can tell you about the mass. It can tell you about the intraductal and extraductal biliary channels as well, and it can also tell you about the involvement. Okay, so there is a portal vein involvement or not, bile duct is involved or not. So extension can be located by the help of a CT. Then you have another best modality, which is called as MRCP. We already discussed about that. That is magnetic resonance cholangiopancreatography. So this can actually, the arrow is pointing you to the location of the tumor, and it's going to help you to classify the tumor. If it's a hilar cholangiocarcinoma, it's a periductal, or it's a distal part of the CBD is involved. So this MRCP is really going to help you. Now, on the basis of CT and MRCP, you can actually find out if the tumor is resectable or not. The CT will tell you if there's involvement of superior mesenteric artery, there is involvement of the common hepatic artery, there is involvement of the portal vein, the colon, the stomach, and the pancreas are involved. Already metastasized to these areas, then the tumor is not resectable. And if the tumor is not resectable, then you have to go for a palliative treatment. And for the carcinomas of the gallbladder, the palliative treatment we come up with is the endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatography with stenting. So what you do is you have to provide a drainage procedure for such patients. Okay, so the drainage procedure is basically performed by the gastroenterologist, and that is ERCP with stenting. So actually, endoscope is being passed, and sometimes the sphincterotomy is being done. There's a dilatation of a little bit to the flow, and if the tumor is not resectable, then what you can do is like you just have to do a palliative treatment and you have to put the stent. And in some cases in which the tumor is resectable and the tumor is well circumscribed and that's involving it's a polyp or a malignant tumor, it's involving the fundus and the gallbladder, it's not obstructing the extrahepatic biliary channels, and you can safely resect. You can do a radical resection. Then after the radical resection and some lymphadenectomy, the patient will be put on a chemo and a radiotherapy, because these nodal metastasis is very much responsive to the radiotherapy. So you have to go for specific investigation. You have to go for staging of the tumor, and then you have to identify if the tumor is resectable or not. For the resectable tumors, you do the best option with a good prognosis is surgery, the radical resection, cholecystectomy, or you combine it with the cholecystectomy, and then you also do some repair procedures like biliary enteric anastomosis. That can be one of the options, and sometimes you have to do the hepatic resection as well. Okay, but for the advanced tumors which has already invaded the portal cable system, or had common hepatic artery, or the parietic lymph nodes are being involved. So these are not resectable tumors, and then you have to give a symptomatic treatment to the patient, and you have to put the patient on a palliative treatment. So that's how making a diagnosis is very much important. You can make a diagnosis just on the basis of your history and clinical examination, but some supportive investigation like the liver function test, the blood CP, the tumor markers, ultrasonography, and then the extent of the tumor, and deciding about the resectability, you have to go for CT and MRCP. And if the tumor is not resectable, then you have to go for palliative surgeries, or you have to go for palliative procedures, like with the intervention, especially you go for ERCP and stenting.